Hey everyone, this is Corbin again from Tru-Security, and I'm here to answer that question of why didn't my antivirus work? I got a virus, I had to take it to Best Buy, this, that, or the other. Why didn't it work? I got it, I paid for it, I've got McAfee, or I've got Kaspersky, I've got Avira, AVG, Avast, whatever you want to call it. Why didn't it work? Why did I still get a virus? Well, so when you're talking about viruses, a lot of people think that a virus is a term that covers any type of bad stuff that gets onto your computer, when in reality a virus describes a specific type of bad stuff. There's many other things. We don't have to get into all of that right now, but what you need to know is, instead of calling it a virus, I'm going to call it malware, which stands for malicious software. Software is just the things that you put onto your computer, on your phone. They're apps, they're your Internet Explorer, Firefox, Word. That's all software, all right? And so what I want to do is I want to explain how antivirus works and why it may not have stopped you from getting infected with malware. First things with it is that antivirus works off of signatures. And what's a signature? What does that mean? That doesn't, like a hand signature? Almost. So the definition of a signature is something that can identify. So when you sign your name, right, when you're checking out at the grocery store, and they say, okay, I want your John Hancock, I want your signature. When you sign, you're proving that this is you. Only you have that signature. Only you sign things in that way. And the same goes for malware. Certain malware will always do the same thing. So basically, if we have malware and it's known as malware ABC, okay, not its name, like just the code that makes it up, it's malware ABC. Well, your antivirus is going to write something. What do I mean by write? I mean, it is going to create internally inside of it a database that is going to say, hey, when you see virus ABC, block it. So that way when virus or malware ABC comes in, it says, okay, this is ABC, block it. But if it's only looking for malware ABC, when malware ABCD comes in, it won't know what that is. So it has to have another signature to tell it, hey, this is malware ABCD. And so on and so forth, all the way down the list. So that's really what signatures are. Is they are a predetermined set of values that allow companies to detect specific information inside of pieces of malware. And I know that may not sound entirely intuitive. So all computers read in ones and zeros, right? Let's go ahead and break this down a little bit. Everything's a 1 and a 0. And if we need to do, a video on binary, let's do it. We'll do a video on binary. I don't mind at all. But because everything's in ones and zeros, let's say, there's a specific part of that virus or that piece of malware never changes. It's always going to have the same order of ones and zeros. 1 0 1 0 0 0 1 1, blah blah blah, etc., etc., etc. Well, you can take that known constant variable. I guess it's not a variable if it's known, but you can take that known constant and you can put it into a database, and that's what your antivirus is. It is just simply a big database of known constants that don't change. So why didn't your antivirus work? Well, it's quite simple. There was something that your antivirus didn't have a signature for. Well, how, that's not your fault. It's the company's fault. But one of the hardest things to do in the cybersecurity world is to keep up with all these bad guys that write all these new different codes every single day to take your stuff, take your information, take your money. So it's a tremendous amount of work. Well, the next question is, okay, well, what can I do to stop it? The answer is not to install another antivirus. Well, why not? You know, if I have 2 databases, 2 antiviruses running, you know, that should mean that it's more effective. Most of the time, all the antivirus vendors, they all share or they all have the same signatures. There's not really a difference between any of them. I don't pay for antivirus just because the free stuff online, AVG, just as good as McAfee. I just don't pay for it. They've got the same signatures, they update the same amount, and you know, it's really not that big of a deal. Thumbs up for AVG on staying free, though. You know, it worked really well for them. So you know, the other thing is like, well, when I scan my computer, you know, it says we protected you from, you know, 650,000 viruses or, you know, badness on your computer every single day. Not true. What they're really saying is that there are 650,000 lines or signatures that they have in that database, and they're saying that each and every day they just make sure that none of those signatures, none of those malwares get to your computer because they have those signatures in place. So it's kind of, you know, kind of marketing, kind of sketchy, kind of, you know, what it is what it is. If you paid for antivirus, that's not a big deal. But so now that we've kind of gone over the basics of antivirus and what it is, how do you protect yourself from those pieces of malware out there that there's no signatures for? How do you do that? Well, there's 2 really good tips. One of the first tips I can give you, and it's probably the easiest one to kind of comprehend, is when you're browsing on a web page, like let's say, so for me, let's say I go to a motorcycle website where I'm trying to read up on a question I'm searching for, and then all of a sudden, boop, this pop-up comes up and it says, hey, you know, your ActiveX or your Flash or your whatever, insert something that you're supposed to have is out of date, or it's not the most current. Click here to download the newest version. Don't do it, because, and here's why. I don't know if your ActiveX or your Flash or your JavaScript or Java is out of date. I don't know. But if you didn't tell your computer to go and find out if it wasn't up to date, that pop-up is not real. Close it. That'll be the end of it. Close it and you don't have to worry about it anymore. Because most of the time, the easiest way to get malware onto somebody's computer is to have them just willingly click it. You know, they just click, oh yeah, I want that screensaver, or oh okay, update my Adobe Flash player. You know, it's like those are the kind of stuff where boop, it puts something on your machine, and you know, malware not all the time is it something that's just like, you know, a skull with crossbones underneath it, you know, of badness. You know, sometimes it's very subtle. Sometimes all it does is just sit on your computer, and when you're not using it, it turns your computer on and it sends information back to its boss, essentially. You know, so that's just not, don't click on anything that you didn't tell your computer to open is probably, that's a really good point. So another way to do it, and this is for Windows users, this is a great way. Okay, so everybody knows what an administrator is. The administrator is what everybody wants to be, right? Well, I'm an administrator because I own my computer. Got it. You know, I understand what you're thinking. Like, this is America, we need to be the best. I need to have administrator rights on my computer. It only makes sense. So, cool, no worries. Like, if you want to be an admin, that's fine. But, put a password on it. You know, some people like to go out and say, you know, this whole idea of, well, it needs to be 16 characters with uppercase, lowercase numbers, and special characters. Yes, that does make a strong password. However, you're not in a corporate environment where the information that you're protecting is, it's going to be special, or it's going to be, you know, it needs to be protected at a higher level. So, you know, just something that's not easily guessable with a number, right? So, and I mean, you can come up with it, right? Baseball bat 12, right? That's a pretty good one. And then if you capitalize one of those letters, it's significantly harder to crack at that point in time. So, you know, it doesn't need to be crazy. Then with your admin account, well, you're thinking to yourself, well, you know, I don't want to have to put a password in every time I need to go and do something. Got it. So here's what you do. You make another user account, all right? You go into your control panel, you click on the users button, and you make a new account. And you do not make another administrator account. Instead, this time, you make an account that's just for users, where all you do is do your web browsing, you do your homework, you do your Skype, all that stuff. You do that on your user account. The reason that you do this is because if you make a mistake, or if somebody is just, they create some piece of malware that is ridiculous, and there's nothing you can do to defend against it, and it infects your user account, that means it didn't get on your administrator account. So what you do is you log off, log into your administrator account, go back to your control panel, and delete that user account, and the virus is gone, or the Trojan, or the bot, whatever it was, it is gone. And then you make a new user account and start over. That was easy, right? You don't have to go to Best Buy. You don't have to pay them, you know, $500 in order to remove 50,000 different things that are wrong with your machine. That's stupid. Make an administrator account, put a password on it, and then only use the user account, right? So when you only use that user account, it doesn't have any elevated privileges. And what that means is the user account cannot just go into your computer and say, I'm going to change all of this stuff, and there's nothing you can do about it. Because remember, now you have a password. So anytime you change something critical on the machine, you know, you need to have that username and password. And I'll be honest, I have yet to see a piece of malware that gets installed on somebody's computer in their user profile that infects their administrator profile when they have a password on it. It's just because you have to have actual hands on keyboard at that point in time, and this is not how things work. So, you know, long story short, antivirus is good, but the gray matter between your ears is always the best defense, because there's not these super hackers out there that are trying to steal your information. You know, what was I heard an analogy. It said, the analogy was, do MMA fighters exist? The answer is yes, of course, MMA fighters exist. Okay, could an MMA fighter, right, beat you up? Like, just totally destroy you? The answer is yes again, right? You know, they're trained to do that. Okay, so why is it when you're walking down the sidewalk, you're not worried about an MMA fighter coming and beating you up? And you're like, well, duh, I mean, that makes sense that why would an MMA fighter want to beat me up? I haven't done anything. Exactly, that's the same thing. When you get these little Trojans, these little viruses, these little pieces of malware on your computer, it's because somebody is just spamming out this easy, simple code that is just, all it's meant to do is just steal money, steal bank accounts, steal credit card information, steal info that's just on your machine, and send it back to somebody. That's all it's meant to do. Like, there's no real reason to target people. You know, it's always easier to steal $1 from one person from 1 million people. Let me rephrase that. It's easier to steal $1 from 1 million people than it is to steal $1 million from one person. So with that logic, you know, they just send these things out in hopes that, you know, you have your credit card information somewhere on your computer that they can steal and send back and then sell, right? Or they can get your bank account, whatever it is. Make the user account, use the user account, and when you think that you've got a virus, oh, and this is, okay, so how do I know if I have a virus or if I have a Trojan or if I have malware on my user account? Because a lot of the times they can be sneaky, right? Well, if you suspect that you've got something on your user account because that profile is running really slow, it's not responding, you know, things are just really, they're different. Log into your admin account and run your antivirus on that user. Really simple. You go into your antivirus, right, in your admin account, and you tell it to run. You say, scan my system. It's going to go out, it's going to scan it, and it's going to scan your user profile for you, and it's going to say, oh yeah, look at this, we found it for you. And, you know, at that point in time, if there's a cleanup button, clean it up and you're good to go, right? Most of the time you only get one virus, one Trojan, one piece of malware at a time. So it's really not that big of a deal. But make sure you make that user account. That's a big thing. Make sure you use the gray matter between your ears. You know, don't click on stuff that's online that just happened to pop up and be like, oh, well, I'm not really sure if my stuff's up to date or not. If you didn't tell your computer, check to see if you need to update, and it tells you it has to update just on its own while you're browsing, don't do it. It's bad news. All right, guys, that's all from Corbin, Tru-Security. Go ahead and hit a like, hit that subscribe button. I got to hit 10,000 people. That's what YouTube told me the other day. So between a couple accounts that I've got, 10,000 people this has got to go out to. I'll make more videos. I'll try to summarize things for you, keep everybody educated, and, you know, just remember, be safe out there. Use that gray matter. All right, out here.